Welcome to SoCal Sports Report's 67th live podcast. I'm John Stellman along with Vince Morales. Jake is with us also, and John is out of town. He will be back. A lot to talk about this week. A great week if you're a SoCal sports fan. I mean, it's just it's incredible with what the Rams and the Chargers are both doing, the Lakers, the Ducks. Hopefully the Kings will get there one day, but and the hiring of USC today of Cliff Kingsbury, that's a very exciting story. So there's so much to talk about. Let's get rolling. The baseball meetings are around the corner. We had a trade go down today, and we'll talk about the Dodgers re-signing Dave Roberts for 4 years and the Brad Usmus filling out the Angel coaching staff. Trojans, I said, hired Cliff Kingsbury, and I think that's going to be a huge plus for them next fall. So let's get right after it. The Rams took care of business. Not always beautiful, but they did what they had to do, and they moved forward. They're in a beautiful spot now where one more win. The next game against Chicago, I think, is going to be the biggest of the season. If they beat Chicago, that should clinch home court because I don't see them losing to Philly at home or the 49ers or Arizona. No. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that 30-16?
And it's the NFL, and then team going on the road, and that's Stafford is still a really good quarterback, and defensively the Lions did some things really well, and the Rams have shown that they can have some struggles and hit some speed bumps, and teams have schemed for that, and it looked like they were putting a little pressure and getting Goff to step up, but Gurley, when it counted, Gurley was lights out, and the defense again, just big plays, and so people will look at that and go, oh, 30-16, that wasn't a close game. But it was a really close game, going into the fourth quarter. But defensively, it's just astonishing what Aaron Donald can do. How disruptive he is to the other team, and that was a Lions team that started to have.
Yeah, it was 16-13. On that 16-13, they were right back in the ballgame. Huh. I think. You don't get defensive linemen as MVP winners, but I think Donald's really got to be in the conversation. What, Alan Page and who was the other one? There were two defensive guys that won the MVP, Alan Page and I can't remember the other one. But I think he's got to be in the conversation. Just the impact he has on a game, how he changes a game, He's just an incredible. He's a beast out there.
Yeah, and he makes makes it easier for his teammates because they're going to have to double team him at times, and so other guys get free runs. Ebukam has been terrific this year. Littleton and the only guy we just haven't heard much from is Ndamukong Suh, and if he picks it up, or if he turns the light switch on,
right,
we'll see. That could be an impressive, even more impressive defense.
Scarier, yeah. Especially because you think about it too. I mean, you hear a lot of people talk about how good the Bears' defense is, and it's a good defense, down the road because they're so young. But this Rams defense has got the veteran leadership, and I mean, Donald's the guy that's stirs the drink. When he goes, everybody else goes, and I thought that Lions game. Yes, it was 30-16, but it was a big win because it was almost a trap game because a lot of California teams don't travel. In my football
and an early start.
Early start, yeah.
Yeah, the gamblers, would love those types of things where they'll fade a team like the Rams that's playing well, that's been winning and looking like they're the dominant team because they're going on the road and starting an early game. Those starts. Ask any gambler; they make a difference.
Plus, your sleep schedule's all messed up, and it can take. It can be tough. The Chargers had I think they finally had a quality win against a good team on the road. I think they needed that because everybody's been crying about they've only beaten sub-500 teams. That's true. Before Pittsburgh, I think Seattle was the only winning team that they've beaten on the road. But this really has got to put the open the eyes of some people, because I really think the Chargers are going to make a run in the playoffs. They've played well, and they've gotten past that facade about not being able to win on the road, not being able to beat good teams. Although it took 3 field goals.
Yeah.
In the ball game.
Yeah, especially when you see Keenan Allen, starting to, get things going, and Williams and Phillip Rivers is just he's almost having an MVP year
It's
too.
unbelievable.
So I mean, it's
Yes.
especially the way that how they won too, coming being down, was it 17 points at half or before half, and coming back and pulling that game off. I mean, that's especially going into Pittsburgh, to where now
Right.
they're not going to be surprised if they play them again in the playoffs. I think so. I think that's gonna have some factors lean into that game too.
Yeah, I think they'll be in their heads a little bit if they do play in the make it in the playoffs.
There was good play calling. Some big defensive stands. The Chargers look for real. I mean, anybody who's been doubting them, but that is a volatile,
It's a tough place to
home
play.
crowd for Pittsburgh. Just a terrific win. Anybody who wasn't a believer needs to believe, because Phillip Rivers is having probably his best year ever. It's
undoubtedly.
arguably the best year he's ever had.
Right. Yeah, he's done it, week in and week out, and you can't take away from the Chargers the fact that they've beaten some bad teams. I mean, the schedule's the schedule. They didn't make the schedule out. You just got to take care of business, and whoever they put before you, you got to beat them.
And they're doing this without a really consistent running back, right? The guy that they can give the ball to, who all the time, that there's been some injuries, there's been some instances. For me, it's I'm buying that stock.
9-3. What, they need one more win probably to secure the playoffs?
Yeah,
or is
I think so.
10 wins should do it?
10 wins will do it.
They got
Especially
room.
how the second wild card's looking right now. Second wild card might be barely 500.
Who do they have? Cincinnati coming in? Is it
Yes.
it's somebody they should beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At home.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to see that. It's always going to be a Ram town, but it'll be interesting to see when they move into the new stadium. The Ram license ticket prices are going to be through the roof. We'll see what the Chargers do, whether they bring those prices down, bring their season tickets down, try to to attract bigger crowds and people that maybe can't afford to go to a Ram game. It's good.
I think that's going to be interesting on a business level, because I mean, they're essentially renters, right? They're leasing space. I'm not sure that the Rams will be very happy. That Kroenke's going to be really happy about bargain basement prices for seat licenses, and So I don't know if there's something on the books, but all I know is that if I put the same product on a field as you do, but I charge this much and you're charging this much, I got a problem with that.
Well, in the NFL too, sales wise, I know that upper deck seats, like they all have it has to be a certain amount. I think It's like $80 or $90. So I mean, it's got to be. Sections have to be in NFL standards. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. The Lakers have put together a nice little 3-game winning streak, 5 games over 500 now. They've hung right in there. I think they're a little bit better than what we all pretty much thought that it was going to be 10-10 after 20 games. They're doing a little bit better than that. And again, they're not playing the strongest competition. They've played some bad teams, but still, you've got to win the games that you're playing, and they have done. I think that you got to be pretty pleased with what's happened so far.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I mean, I was expecting there to be more growing pains. I'm still worried. I mean, I'm still dubious about what's going to happen to this team eventually. I still don't think that there's a number 2 go-to guy. He is. Brandon Ingram's body language in some games, that game earlier in the season where he, took a punch at a guy and got thrown out.
Right.
There was frustration there, and I think some of that was his role, and some of that was, you just got chippy out there. But some of it, I think, I don't know how long somebody who's, the heir apparent, right? Where kids are gonna be happy with what the role is. I mean, is Brandon Ingram gonna be happy playing X amount of minutes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, LeVar Ball isn't happy with his son playing X amount of minutes, right? He thinks that that's the barometer for whether or not Magic Johnson keeps Luke Walton as the coach, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Ball. Fourth quarter, and he's either in there and he's a playmaker. His defense is pretty good. Yeah, he doesn't shoot free throws, and yeah, he doesn't like to take a clutch shot. But if he's not playing, I don't know what his role is, right? I mean, if he's not worthy of playing in the fourth quarter,
yeah,
then I don't know what he is. I mean,
exactly.
He's clearly not an all-star, and he's certainly not a Hall of Famer if you can't play him in the fourth quarter. Some of that's on Luke, and some of that's on Lonzo. But again, as a fan, I'm happy with the start. We're in a spot now, I think 6th in the West, or 6th in the conference, right?
Yeah,
so it's
right.
like, it's pretty good, but I still don't know. I just, there are things that I don't know. And then things come out like Josh Hart feeling, doing his pouting thing, he did it in the preseason. Where he didn't feel like he was being included in that group of the young core. It's like, I don't, you aren't until you are, right?
That's right.
Lonzo's not even playing the fourth quarter. You've got more minutes in the fourth quarter than him. What are you bitching about? I don't get it, right? So, and again, things like Lance Stevenson and Michael Beasley. I mean, that never made sense to me. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why that guy's on the team.
Take up a spot on the bench.
So there are plenty of things that I worry about. Right?
Plus, they better hope LeBron never gets hurt.
Oh,
he
yeah.
can't.
No. And that's what they were talking about on the radio today about, maybe, instead of waiting until next year, maybe making a trade, this year at the deadline just for, reasons like that on not James Beal from Washington because of just the contract situation, but getting a guy that could, kind of come in and play, and then waiting in, for next year to make a big splash. Because the other thing too is a lot of teams in the West really haven't, in my opinion, gotten going yet.
No,
and that's what's kind of scary too.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of these teams have, kind of underachieved, and unfortunately, not unfortunately, but the Clippers have, right now kind of overachieved, in my opinion. So it's like, I think once, we get later into the season, I think it'll start to kind of balance out.
You see, I feel there was a time when I wouldn't have felt this way, but right now I don't feel like the Clippers are overachieving. I think that that's the team they are.
For real?
I think that they've got some depth, they've got some grit to them. They got some guys that can score. They've got more than one option late in a game. I'm not. So I don't know that they're overachieving. I think this is right where they're going to be. or in again where they are. Not that they're up near the top of the heap. What are they like a half a game out or something?
They're in first place.
Or tied for first place, whatever it is. I mean, they're right there. They're right in the hunt. They're in the top four.
Right.
There's 4 teams in a cluster at the top. But I don't know that that's where they're going to be. But that over 500 thing, I think that they can keep that up. I mean, there are times when defensively they're pretty good. They can stop at the rim and they're gritty.
They've got some good, pretty good offensive balance too. It's not like they're relying on one guy like James to do all the scoring. Somebody gets hurt, they can probably cover it up because they have a decent bench and they distribute the ball and they have a lot of guys that can score. So they wouldn't be hurt by an injury so much as the Lakers would. Stats today, the last 13 games. Yeah, they're now at they've gone 10-3 in their last 13 games. They're number 2 in team defense with a 101.7 rating and 100 possessions. They effective field goal percentage 50.7, number 7. Defensive rating 106.8 points per game, number 8. So whatever they're doing defensively seems to have clicked. The defense has always been awful. It was even awful when Phil Jackson was here. But I don't know what they seem to be playing. Again, they haven't played top flight competition, but still, I mean, if you're an NBA player, you should be able to make a basket. So they've to prevent teams from scoring, has got.
My problem with them is they want to run, they want pace, and they're scoring a lot in the paint, right? Because they're getting those easy buckets. That's great for regular season. Postseason,
that doesn't work.
Things tighten up. Yeah. Every possession is a battle, and that just doesn't happen. You don't. It's not like the old days where you could get a team that's just running up and down the court, and they're not the Warriors. They can't just pull. They can't just get a stop, pull up in transition, and hit the three. That's not who they are. They're transition, pass it ahead, guy dunks, right? So they're getting a lot of points in the paint, and so that's elevating their field goal percentage, and they're shooting better from 3, but it still feels like LeBron's their best 3-point shooter.
Shouldn't be. It
shouldn't be like that. I mean, that's why they kept Contavious Caldwell Pope, right?
Yeah.
I still have concerns about that.
The jury is out. Huh?
Yeah, for me it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's questions.
But they're winning, and I'd rather there be questions with them, 6 or 7 games over 500 than I would with them, under 500.
Under 500. Yeah, that's true. Your Ducks, they had an unbelievable road trip. I just could not.
Yeah, 4-1.
Won 4 in a row. They beat good teams.
Beat Washington.
That was incredible.
What a comeback.
Down 5-1.
5-1.
That was unbelievable.
Pulling Gibson. Made a little trade 2 days ago for Daniel Sprong, another forward. Traded Marcus. It's one of the dominoes to fall. I feel like for the Ducks, I feel like they're gonna be one of those teams come the trade deadline that's gonna make a big splash. With that deal, I understand. I get it, but then I don't because I think Pettersson's actually a really good defenseman, and Sprong's a third, fourth line forward. Which
that's where he's gonna be.
The Ducks need another scorer, which I understand. But I feel like I wish they could have given maybe somebody else besides Pettersson because he was kind of, especially on this road trip, was stepping up huge for the Ducks. Yeah. On the penalty kill and everything. And so, I don't know. I think that, they're on a nice little win streak right now, and hopefully they can, they're not home a lot in December. So they go back. I think they're home for 4. Then they go back on, another East Coast road trip. So, I mean, we'll see. Jury's still out on that, too.
That was a good big bounce back, though, losing that.
And they never do. And the Tampa Bay, Florida, back to back. games that they've been having for at least 5 years now. They never win those games.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, if they even get a point, it's a victory. So to go in and beat Tampa, and then to come back and beat Florida, even though Florida's young and on the rise, up and coming, I think that was a big win for them. And we'll see. I mean, it's just, but it goes to show you, it's like they go on a 4-game win streak. You look at the standings; they're tied for first.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the division's still pretty tight.
Still pretty tight.
Pretty tight. Yeah.
So, we'll see.
Not if you're the Kings sniffing everybody's butts,
Yeah, not if you're
and
the
just
Kings.
yeah. The Kings. It's just it's. We had talked about Kovalchuk, right? Is all his minutes going down? He hadn't scored a point in 11 games, and now he's out a month. Surgery on his ankle, right? There. To me, it just felt like he just wasn't playing, and then maybe Willie DeJardin didn't think he fit the offense, but it was clearly a medical issue, and so he's out for a month. Trevor Lewis is out, continues to be out, and he will be for 4 to 6 weeks. Quick is back in the pipes, but there isn't a lot going on. I mean, they've lost 8 of their last 12 games. They couldn't earn a point out of any of those losses. That's tough.
Yeah, that is
right?
tough.
That's tough. I mean, if you're going to lose, you
least
lose
get
it in
to
overtime, right?
Yeah.
Let's grind it out into overtime. But that's 8 out of 12 that they've lost, and not anything to show for those losses. And you can't do it. I mean, you got to grind out a point here or there, and they just haven't done it. And I'm not sure what it's going to take for this team. It could be time to blow it up, and this a tough concept because they're but I said it before, my problem with them is the age of that. A lot of experience and a lot of guys who have been around, Brownie and Doughty and Kopitar, and then they added Kovalchuk, but the average age on those guys, I mean, they're in their 30s.
Yeah.
They just weren't developing guys. But Kempe is coming along, Wagner is they're guys that can play, but
that's where
it's not going to happen this year.
That's where I think the Ducks have really done a good job of transitioning from getting an older team to a younger team. They've brought the kids up from San Diego, and most of them have played well. And they haven't missed a beat. It's not like they've been a terrible team trying to transition. They've been able to maintain it pretty nicely.
Well, and these are the guys that were supposed to. And there's just no room for him, and and there's more coming too. That's the scary thing. This Max Jones kid's supposed to be up any time now, but he keeps getting injured. He's supposed to be equivalent to a Ryan Kessler, so just bigger. And then they got Jacob Magna, who's a local kid who's a 6'7" defenseman. So, and he's been up and down too. So, I think you'll still see him, but like the Jacob Larson, defenseman that we have right now, that right now he looks like he's going to be, here for the long haul. I mean, he looks, already established. So, there's some good things, happening in Anaheim right now. I
think it was almost, I hate to say this, but I think it was a good thing that Corey Perry got hurt.
Oh, no, it was. Less penalties.
Because now they've been able to bring these guys up, see what they can do,
Seriously.
and found out that they can play.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, too, is that I was looking at, so there's going to be a Seattle team coming.
Right.
Where's he at? Well, if he would have played 11 games, he would have been eligible for Seattle to take in the next year in that draft.
Right.
He only played 10. So they have him locked up for the, next 3 to 4 years. And so, I think that's what's going to be happening too, is some of these guys are going to be, they're going to be, kind of just keeping them down in San Diego just so,
just so you don't lose them.
Mm-hmm, like the Theodore.
Are they going to do the same staffing of Seattle that they did with Vegas?
They have to.
Yeah,
that draft,
that's going to make Seattle pretty good right off the bat again, probably.
It feels like it. I mean, unless their general manager's got his head up his ass.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, things have to go right, but you also have to get the right personnel. If they got the right GM, but it's a totally different ballgame because now it's stretched out. Now there's rosters and put on to a whole other team. right?
Right.
So now it's stretched out even more. So I'm not anybody who thinks that Seattle can benefit from this the way that Las Vegas did. It's not quite the same because things are stretched out again, and there's going to be some good talent. But I think this is going to feel more like a true expansion.
Yeah,
team.
right,
And
exactly.
again, it's just crazy that you know, it's crazy that the NHL decided to let them stagger them in. It's
Yeah, I think they made a mistake with Vegas.
Well, and they shaked up the divisions too. I don't know if you guys saw it. Arizona now will go into the Central in the West, and Seattle will stay in the Pacific.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, but the other thing is though too, I was kind of surprised by that because I'm like, well, if Arizona's still there, at least they'll get a couple, gimme wins with them. Coming in, and the West is going to get better. I think that's like what Vince said, it's going to be a true expansion team. They're not going to come out to a hot start like Vegas did. Yeah. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Baseball. Dave Roberts signed a 4-year extension.
He did.
Brad Esmus completed his coaching staff. I saw that Corbin went to the Nationals today. They signed
That's right.
Oh, is it
Patrick
official?
Corbin.
Yep, that was
That's going to be one heck of a pitching staff.
Yeah, it is.
He was the best
Left-hander.
pitcher out there on the free agent market.
But they're going to have to replace Harper, right? I mean, he's not going back there, right? I don't see him going back there. I mean,
No.
that's a big hole to fill.
No.
Corbin signed with the Phillies or the Nationals?
Nah.
Nationals.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Thought he was going to Philly for a second.
So that's
people-
Strasburg and who's the other big? Corbin. That's going to be.
Got to score runs, though.
Yeah, I got to score. Yeah, Harper definitely isn't. Yeah, I mean, if he already waived that first contract, there's no way he's coming back.
No, exactly. Let's see, the Seattle made that big trade, sent Cano to the Mets.
Typical Dipoto fashion, though.
Yep.
Just, get rid of everybody, then bring back a, ton of prospects. So
They also sent the guy that relief pitcher who led the league in saves last year.
Oh, Diaz?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's a heck of a hole in that roster.
Yeah. But looking at the Mets, like looking at that Cano contract, I mean, if he doesn't produce the first 2 years, I mean, and he's, what, 30, he's in his 33, 34?
Yeah, and he's halfway. He's only halfway.
And he's
10
halfway through it. So that's, I mean, I don't know. That's a big risk.
Let's get into USC football. I love Cliff Kingsbury. They made that signing today. As I was telling Vinny before we went on air, play hell just better step back and look the other way and worry about defense or special teams or whatever else and leave the offense alone now because he's got a genius in there. And this guy can do what he's done. His track record is pretty good with explosive offenses, scoring points, getting the ball into the end zone. He's had some good quarterbacks. I think he had Mahomes. He had Johnny Manziel, and one other guy. I can't remember who the other guy was. But Vinny thinks there might be a.
I asked the question. I'm not saying I know for sure. It's just, I don't know enough about Kingsbury's offense and his schemes and what he does to know. But I don't look at JT Daniels as the prototype for the kind of offense that he's running. So I asked the question, and it doesn't need to be answered, I think, by people. It just needs to be. I just think that there shouldn't be an expectation that JT Daniels is for sure 100% the guy in that offense. I think he likely is. I think he's probably 95% certain to be, but I still think there's questions. He's not mobile at all. He's a poor decision maker at times. That didn't improve much during the season. there's still problems. I think that the thing that yes, we know that Clay Helton is not an offensive coordinator. He proved that, right? But how much of this was coaching, and how much of this is just a lack of developing talent or getting the wrong personnel? I'm not convinced that just pushing Helton over and saying, you be the CEO, the player personnel, the general manager, the guy who runs everything else.
Right.
I'm not sure he's that guy. He doesn't run tough practices. He's sort of a player's coach. Look, I think we're going to find out pretty quickly whether he's the problem or whether it's the talent that's the problem. I don't think Helton being the CEO of the USC football team, that's what they're trying to make it, and we're going to find out pretty quickly. And Kingsbury helps, and when you don't have a bowl game to look at and you're staring in the rear view of the 5-7 season, anybody with even a whiff of possibility is going to feel good.
Right.
But there's a reason Texas Tech got rid of Cliff Kingsbury. He didn't win, right? He didn't quite have the talent. Or maybe he did. I don't know. But he's certainly not going to have a Patrick Mahomes at Southern Cal. He's not going to have that. He's going to have the receivers. He's going to have some backs. But a lot's going to have to happen in the offseason for me to.
Now?
What
if they stumble out of the game? What if they stumble out 1-3?
State, yeah.
That's not out of the realm of possibility. That's a good. Tedford's a good coach. He's a Pac-12 guy. That's a good team that that just won their conference, going to a bowl game. I don't know how many. I don't know enough about that team to know how many guys are returning or how many skill position guys. But Tedford's a good coach, and he's coming back, and that's a rough first game to have when you just went 5-7.
Home opener too, yeah.
So, excuse me for not being, doing, cartwheels for Cliff Kingsbury. Look, it's got to be better than T. Martin, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I think it's definitely not.
Is going to get in with this new offense.
He didn't get in the last offense.
Yeah.
There were rumors, and again, you got to take it with a grain of salt, with more than a grain of salt, with a whole giant boulder of salt. But the rumors were coming out that the locker room had turned on Daniels, and that they wanted Sears. But again, I could report that, Sears sprouted wings and flew over the defense for a touchdown, and you weren't there, you don't know. Yeah. I might have been there, and maybe I make something up. People hear things and they say things, and sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. I don't know what to believe. If that's all I know is that Sears acquitted him. What did he play? A quarter, a half?
Minute and a half?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, he didn't get much. He didn't get much time, that's for sure.
But do you think with this hiring is going to help with recruiting in Texas now, getting more kids from Texas? Because they recruited well when Carroll was there out of Texas, but with Kingsbury coming in
with Carroll, they recruited well everywhere.
Yeah, true.
They recruited well. They were getting guys from New Jersey and Florida, and it was all over.
Yeah.
It was open. If you had a 5 star blue chip recruit in your backyard, and you were on the East Coast, you weren't. And the guy said, I'm considering USC, you had to worry about it. You don't have to worry about it anymore, but back in the day, you had to worry about it.
Right.
guys that are from Texas, from the state of Texas, that are in the USC program. I don't know that this opens it up. There was an article in The Athletic, or the Oregonian, I think it was, that was talking about just how far the Pac-12 has fallen, and Larry Scott is to blame for a lot of it, and that there's just not as much money coming into these programs, and it makes a difference. So an SEC team is making about $40 million a year off of their TV deal, right? Well, 40-something million, right? And each team in the Pac-12 is getting about $30 million. That's significant, and that adds up. And again, this television deal doesn't get to be redone till about 2024. So we're talking, that's a number of years. That's $11 to $15 million per year for 5 to 6 years.
Plus, you can't even.
Was the most discouraging and the most sobering of that. And again, you got to take it from the source. Consider the source. It's Rick Neuheisel. He said, being down on the field and watching these games and watching kids from the Big 12 and from the Big 10 and from the SEC and kids in the Pac-12, he says, it is shocking how small the Pac-12 is, size-wise, physicality-wise. He says it's a big deficit. And you can see it. And to me, it's one of the most disheartening things to read. It's because even a few $1 million more helps you with your nutrition and your workouts and train the training
Equipment.
table. It makes a difference. And Larry Scott, meanwhile, is in this luxury office in San Francisco. Foot in the United States, maybe the whole world.
Exactly.
And for what reason? And people say because he likes that stuff. He likes everything first cabin. He loves to get on this chartered plane and fly here and there, and he loves people to come in and see the big office. And Pac-12 has more employees than anybody, and they say, oh well, that's because we have our own TV network. For what? Water polo?
Volleyball?
Right?
Seriously.
I mean, hey, USC won the national championship in water polo. Whoopee. A big deal. That's what I get to watch on the Pac-12 network? Or not watch if I have DirecTV?
Yeah, exactly.
It's nonsense. And to me, that has to change. And I when I look at the offensive line, the Pac-12, they're not going. Name one offensive lineman in the last 5 years from USC that's a regular in the pros. You can't.
Yeah. It's sad.
They've got some speed, and I think as a Notre Dame fan, Notre Dame fans probably looked at that and said, "Wow, this team can, we can't get off the edge. We can't get on the edge, or we can't separate from this team because they got some speed. We got to maybe make some adjustments." And they did, because Kelly's a better coach than Helton, and because they had better personnel. But they weren't bigger than Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly.
They weren't flattening Notre Dame. They got some guys with some.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Urban Meyer stepping down after the Rose Bowl? Stepping down or being forced out?
Probably a little of both.
Probably both.
I mean, health-wise, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah, his health is not.
And with how embattled he's been over the last year, doesn't surprise me.
And that was one of the rumors too that you kind of kept hearing was he was going to USC. After this whole Ohio State, there was, people close to him that, was talking about it. But, obviously it's just rumors. But, yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Health's probably a big thing. And, just how that whole situation, was handled. I mean, but
it's
especially by him.
atrocious.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Listen, I think that there are plenty of people who are going to be saying, hey, one more year, Helton, or second. You think this guy's going to go to one of the largest markets and be under that microscope?
Yeah.
I mean, you see that guy dying a little bit on the sideline and it feels like he's going to have an aneurysm right on the sidelines.
Oh yeah.
Every time you watch him.
Yeah. I heard today on local sports talk, if he wants to coach again, which he probably will after a couple of years.
He's a young man.
He's 54, I think. Would anybody who would hire him with that baggage?
Yeah.
With that baggage, he'd be tough to.
No.
He's a winner, but he's still got the domestic violence thing.
No. He's a white head coach with national championships. He's just too good of a coach and too big of a winner. Nobody's going to care. No, nobody's really, honestly, nobody will care.
For his health problems, I think I hope he stays away. Really, I mean, he's not in good physical shape.
It doesn't seem like it.
No,
it doesn't
Michigan
seem like
game. You thought he was just going to collapse.
Totally.
I mean, it was. I get the game was intense and emotional.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he literally looked like he was going to.
That's the time you start texting your friends. Hey, you ever seen a guy die on the sideline? You better turn on the TV.
Well, that's what's going to be interesting too, because to see how long he does actually sit out. Because when he did that, thing from Florida,
was he out 2 years?
I think it was about 2 years, year and a half. I was kind of waiting. He was actually the front runner for the Notre Dame job before Kelly.
Absolutely.
And they decided to go with Kelly, which is fine. But,
Kelly was 4-8. I don't think anybody thought it was fine.
No.
It was Kelly
That's
instead of
another
Urban
thing,
Meyer.
too, that irritates me hearing from, when the whole, after the USC game and Helton about, Notre Dame. Notre Dame was 4-8, and they kept Kelly. It was like, no, they should have fired Kelly after that.
Well, they were
game.
spinning a narrative.
Yeah.
And they were already, they were spinning the narrative for keeping, and we knew that. I mean, I knew that weeks ago, that they were spinning the narrative for keeping Helton and blowing everybody else out.
Yeah.
Because the thing that Helton wasn't saying when he would be interviewed was, well, Notre Dame, yeah, but they should have fired Kelly. And the thing is that they fired all of his coaches, and the reason it got back is because Notre Dame is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And so that's the narrative that Helton and Swan want you to believe, right? But when on in the background at SC, with the scandals and with they don't have a president, and there's just too much going on. And Lynn Swan thinks he's smarter than he is, and there's nobody there to keep him in check. I don't know why he was allowed to do that. I don't know if he said, you know what I think is a good idea. Let's keep Helton and get rid of everybody else. Will that satisfy you, Board of Trustees? Well, I don't have to ask a president because we don't have one. It's an interim.
That's right.
So it felt like he was just doing whatever he wanted. I mean, that letter he wrote, it just so the feeling for me is, if Lynn Swan is the AD, there's no way Urban Meyer becomes the coach. I agree with that.
Yeah,
that Lynn Swan is the type of, we don't want a guy like that.
Have a
winner.
and
but I'm looking at some of we didn't have a player on the first or second team conference academic
time
team.
That happened?
Academic team. So what he may be growing pretty good citizens, but they're not good scholars. So I don't know what the hell Swan thinks Helton's doing right, other than being squeaky clean himself and not getting drunk and chasing co-eds.
Yeah.
Because that's what Kiffin and Sark were doing.
Tequila Steve.
Oh, yeah.
You guys got anything else? We're short on. We got some time left, and unless you want to go back and look at the Angels and Dodgers a little bit, we didn't really touch too much on that.
I don't think there's much going on. I mean,
That'd be for Puig too, wouldn't it?
I think there's lots of things there's lots of players that are involved in that.
Yeah.
Why would Cleveland want to move him? Contract?
I think so.
Yeah. Contract, and you're going to get another, Cy Young arm righty.
Oh yeah.
The thing that scares me going to the Angels is I hope this isn't the only move that they make.
What's that now?
The only move that they make with Tommy La Stella. I mean, he's a utility guy who saw, maybe 40, 50 games with the Cubs in 2 years.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what scares me. And I think that unless they don't, I don't know, just being an Angel fan, I could see them literally, it's going to work fine. We'll just go get Daniel Descalso, and we'll get a couple utility guys, and we're going to get it going again. That's what I think could happen.
You don't have any outfield holes, but you sure got a lot of problems in the infield.
Yeah, and starting pitching and bullpen.
Yeah. So Richards with the Padres, right? Signs with the Padres for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years, $15 million guaranteed.
And they knew that he wasn't going to throw this year.
Next year,
Like,
sorry.
that's what's so...
So actually, it's a $15 million one-year contract for 2020, because he's not going to throw this year. That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
Well, when is anything the Padres?
Yeah.
Well, that's
Seriously.
made
true.
much sense.
That's why they finish last every year.
Seriously.
Think the Giants are going to make a big splash with their new GM up there? Your former Dodger guy?
They're going to try.
They're getting old too.
I mean, you keep seeing Bumgarner's.
Yeah, he would be an attractive
Mm-hmm.
pickup for somebody.
Well, the thing is he's not owed that much. That deal that they structured for him is a great deal. I think he's only getting $8 million for the
Is
next
that
3 or 4
right?
years. Yeah, something like that.
That'd be a steal.
Yeah. But I mean, then you got to go, with the injuries. So I mean, but I don't know. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. But you keep seeing his name pop up on different trades.
I don't know why you would.
Yeah.
I mean, with that kind of a salary.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of salary?
It seems manageable. The thing with the Giants is that they spent a lot of money trying to get back at it, and they were just as crappy as they were the year before. So they're getting a new GM who's an analytics guy trying to replicate sort of what the Dodgers are doing, or brand. I think sometimes that works, and sometimes that doesn't. And there's been a lot of bad baseball in San Francisco. And it wasn't Zaidi and Friedman, it wasn't the easiest thing to get used to as a Dodger fan, right? When you kept wondering, why did they keep bringing in guys who have had Tommy John surgery? Why do they keep bringing in left-handers? Don't we need a right-hander? Why are they doing, and it's like, wait a minute, why are they not playing this guy? What's going on?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'll just warn San Francisco fans that if you like to be in the dark about things, have fun. You're not going to know what's going on, right? The decisions that they make are he does type guys, and certainly wasn't at the Zaidi level, right?
Right.
It just wasn't at his level. It was Friedman and the upper guys. It wasn't Zaidi. I mean, he may have said, "Hey, here, crunched the numbers and said, let's go after these guys."
Right.
But it's more he's the guy bringing in those middle relievers who they think are going to be, who nobody's ever heard of, who they think are going to be something.
That's true.
And so I would be very surprised if he was able to turn it around. That's got to be a 3-year plan. To me, it feels like it's got to be a 3-year plan.
Yeah, you're not going to do it immediately. That's
Especially with how that division's going. I mean, it's Dodgers and Colorado's for the taking.
And can you imagine what those conversations will be like with Bruce Bochy and Zaidi when he's I don't need that. I need this. You know?
Yeah.
No. You don't understand, Coach. You do need this. Roberts was the kind of, okay, my first first managerial job. Yes, sir. Okay, guys, whatever you say, we'll make it happen. I'm going to be the cheerleader, and I'm going to be the field manager. That's not happening in San Francisco. Not with Bochy.
No.
No way.
He's old school.
No way.
He's not going to buy into that analytical stuff. He's in the Scioscia, Buck Showalter, George Girardi.
He's a dying breed.
Yeah, he's the last one.
How difficult is the game going to be for the Rams in Chicago this weekend? They're going to go into cold weather. This is going to be their toughest game of the year, I think, from here out. Chicago's coming off a bad loss to the Giants. But they're a very, very hostile crowd and probably 30-degree and snow or whatever they're forecasting there. Is it going to be... It's going to be a lot tougher game than Detroit, and Detroit hung in there for 3 quarters. I think this will be a tough opponent for the Rams. They've got to. I think their whole season hinges on this, at least as far as getting to the playoffs. Their season hinges on this game. They're not going to lose to Philly at home or to San Francisco or Arizona, so they can grab home field throughout the NFC playoffs. I think with a win over Chicago, but
again. I don't think it hinges on it. I mean, I think you're putting more importance on it than I would. I mean, if they come out of that 11-2 and end up going 14-2, I got no problem with that.
Yeah, but you got a problem going back to New Orleans. I don't want to play back there. I don't think New Orleans will.
Got 4 more games to play too.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know who they're playing. But they just got beat and only scored 10 points against the Cowboys. Yeah, why are we anointing them?
It's 2 in Carolina, 1 in Tampa who beat them for New Orleans.
Yeah.
So that's, I think New Orleans just kind of has a tougher schedule than the Rams do.
Yeah,
I'd rather be the Rams coming off of a win on the road than being the Saints who just scored 10 points against the Cowboys. I mean,
it made that Dallas defense look like the Rams defense. That's what was so shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, that Dallas defense is good, but they're not that good. And it looked like the Saints just didn't even, I don't know. It just looked like they were kind of.
But they were looking past.
Oh, yeah.
I don't lose any sleep with a loss to Chicago. And I don't think. I mean, certainly it would solidify things for having home field advantage throughout the playoffs, of course. But to me, I think it's still too early to make that sort of there goes your chances for the playoffs. I mean, I think that there are other things I'd worry about, and the fact that Gurley doesn't get the ball as much early in games, and that people stack the box and try to put pressure on Goff, and they've had some success in upsetting, and he made a couple of terrible passes late in that game that should have been picked off and could have been pick sixes. So I worry about him just staying focused more than I do about anything else. And Khalil Mack putting his helmet under.
He was Gurley's backup, and now Gurley had to play a lot in that Detroit game. I don't know who I think he's not going to play against Chicago. I don't know who they got a couple of guys they could activate, I guess. But you can't, you got to get Gurley out of there. Give him his rest a little bit during the game. You can't have him, in there for the entire 4 quarters. He's got to. And Brown was doing pretty well as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not a starter, but he was. Chewing up yardage and taking time off the clock, and I think that was a good a good substitute for Gurley. Well, we will see. They're 3-point favorites, which means what? Even game. Your home team is worth 3 points, isn't it usually? So that's.
It means
probably an even.
So
game.
the Rams are 3-point favorites.
Yeah.
It means.
let's hope that quarterback's not quite ready yet.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. All right, I think we're going to have to wrap this up. Justin's not, my producer engineer's not back yet, so we better keep it quiet. But unless you guys have something else you want to talk about,
No.
we are out.
Good night. We're right on time. I need a cocktail. Or just some whiskey. Pour myself some whiskey. It's like, no, I kind of want to watch a little TV. If I hit the whiskey, I might get too sleepy. So
How many dollar raises did you get this week?
Oh, just what? None.
What?
No. Just got to level 2. Like I was here when I told you that, right? Yeah. And then level 3 is a fry guy, which you're gonna have to that's 4 or 5 months down the road. So we'll see.
that's not bad.
Get away from the microphones.
He's back.